Okay, so hi everyone. I'm told it's time to get started. So like I said, I think a couple of y'all came in afterwards. We are in the room without a screen, so we have slides up here, and I will talk to them more than I would probably normally talk to slides, just so everybody in the back can see. But we are doing numbers for word people today. It's like math for writers. Thank you. Hi. I just told them we don't have a screen in here, so all my slides are up here, so I'm kind of going to hold it up and I'm going to talk to them a little bit more. So don't be distressed if you can't see. No one else can either. I am Kristen Ethridge. I am the Vice President of Brand and Communications at PublishDrive. We are a publishing platform that exists to make publishing easier and more efficient for you. I am also one of you. I'm a USA Today Bestselling author. I published with Harlequin, Hallmark Publishing, and I've got 20-something sweet romances out as an indie. I just started at PublishDrive a couple weeks ago. This is like my unicorn job. Oh no. The guy in the yellow vest is taking a picture. That is my husband, and I'm going to kill him. But he brought all the cup stuff. So get ready. We've got a lot of data coming because we have a really big platform that publishes for people all over the world, and we have access to a great amount of data. And if there's one thing that it feels really hard to get, it's actionable data. So that's what we're doing here today. Nope, that's me, and you'll not miss that one. That was me as a blonde. Let me get a new picture. Okay, so if you've been doing this publishing thing for a couple of years, it probably feels like, oh my gosh, it's always something. Like 2020 was COVID, and everybody didn't know how that was going to go with writing, but it turned out pretty good for the author community from a book sales perspective overall. And then this year, we've kind of had a crazy year with some of the situation in the Ukraine, and what does that mean? And especially for our friends in Europe who are publishing over there, have audiences over there. And now everybody's talking about, will there or won't there be a recession? So we'll get to do this again in 2023 and talk about how it's always something, right? But we are still seeing exponential growth in book sales. So I'm going to hold this up so everyone can see. If you can see back there, that's a little bar. Okay. That's a little bar, and that's a big bar. That's 2019, that's 2022. And so last year, we helped authors publish more than 150,000 individual book titles. It's ebook, print on demand, and audio. And despite everything that everyone said about COVID in 2020, we saw a 200% year-over-year increase in book sales on our platform with our data. And even though in February, we had everything start in the Ukraine, and there's been a lot of that affecting, again, Europe. We're tracking to see another 200% growth. So that's 2 years of year-over-year 200% growth, and the year before that was 50% growth. So it's, from a numbers perspective, that is phenomenal growth. If you go out on the internet and you're trying to get data, everything you probably are pulling says book sales are declining. And everything's going down, and it's a hard time for publishers, and it's a hard time for authors. And we pulled this data actually from Publishers Weekly, and the traditional book market is down 6% in France, 4% in Italy, 11% in Germany, 6% here in the US. But on our platform, where we cater to indie authors and small presses, the numbers tell a different story. In France, it's actually up 51%. In Italy, 54%. In Germany, 154%. And here in the US, where it's probably arguably the most robust digital book market, 240% growth. So what the source of the data is matters, because you're indies and you probably care about what the indie data says. And the indie data says people are buying your books and they're buying a lot of them, and they'd like you to write more of them. And in fact, if we want to kind of laser in on this year's big story, Russia and Ukraine, is there really disruption in the book market? These are Ukrainian and Russian book sales that we pulled off the PublishDrive platform. Storytel, which is primarily targeted in Europe, had a 756% increase on Russian and Ukrainian books. Oddly, a bunch of Russian history books sold out in China. Like they couldn't get them anymore, so that might have something to do with it. Biblioteca, 311%, Amazon, 181%, Perligo, 178%, Overdrive, which is libraries, right, 152%, Audible, so audiobooks, 134%, 24 Symbols, 108%, Barnes & Noble, 89%, and that's primarily a US audience, right? Barnes & Noble is primarily focused on US. Google Play, 88%, and I guess another section of Amazon, 84%. So I don't know that the numbers are showing that it's all doom and gloom if people are trying to tell you that. Because if you're writing in Ukrainian or Russian, it might have been a good year for you. So how does 2022 look? What does our data look like that we saw this year from our perspective, going back in our back end and looking at those 150,000 titles that we helped publish this last year? Our CEO, Kinga Gentex, she's not here today. She was here this morning, and she got invited to speak at a Google Startup conference in Helsinki, Finland, and so she had to hop on a plane today. But she gave a very similar presentation to this at NEAK, last month? Let's say about 6 weeks ago. And she just did a snap poll in the room when she was presenting, and she was asking folks in the room at NEAK, were your book sales better than 2021, about the same, or lower? And of the 62 people in her room that answered that question, more than half actually said it was a better year. And then about a third said it was the same, and then some people said it was lower. But like I told you earlier, we saw growth of almost 200%. So we know that the books are out there and they're selling. So where's that growth coming from? We think it's a lot of international book sales. So I'm going to talk to the slide because I know there's no way y'all in the back can read it. But international book sales in 2021, it was pretty evenly split, 51% international, 49% US book sales. But for 2022, we're now seeing 56% international, 44% US. So international is picking up. And if you think about that, remember what I said earlier, that the US is probably the most developed, robust digital book market. But as you and I publish more books and decide to do more translations, and more people in more places around the world get comfortable with the idea of ebooks, those international markets are going to open up. Remember 2012? Like, listen to people when you listen to those folks and they're like, yeah, and I started publishing in 2012 and came to 1.0 and it just all went crazy. There will be a 2012 in other book markets in the next 5 years. So the question is, are you going to be there? And then we broke it down by country. So this is growth by country across PublishDrive. My question to you, I'm going to talk to this slide so you can hear what this slide actually shows. But my question to you as I'm getting ready to read off these numbers is, are you getting to readers in these markets with your books? Number one, India. We just signed a large deal with a distributor in India because we believe that India is a huge growth market for indie publishers. And in India, they speak English. You're not having to translate. And for people like me who write romance, think of romance. That's 250% growth, y'all, in India in one year. We've got the US, Serbia, Sweden, Austria, Germany, the UK, Russia, Ireland, Norway, Canada, Australia, Italy, Spain, Denmark, Singapore, South Africa, New Zealand, Brazil, and Portugal kind of represented down on this. So there's a lot of English-speaking countries in there. And you probably sell books in a lot of those countries right now, even if you're just publishing on Amazon and you're in KU. But there's a ton of other countries. And look, half of it, look at that growth. That's over 100% growth for half of this chart. So, are you publishing internationally? We're going to take that data and break it down a little bit differently. And are you taking advantage of libraries and subscription services? KU is not the only subscription service in the world. And libraries are still buying books, and people are still going to libraries to check out books. And probably, if there's a coming recession, people are going to go to libraries more. But we see huge growth in Storytel. Again, that's largely European-focused market. Biblioteca, libraries, Amazon, Perlico, Overdrive, libraries, Audible, again, 24 Symbols, Barnes & Noble, Google Play Audio, which is an interesting one now with all of their AI audio coming on board, and they've got significant growth. Amazon Print, Tolino and their German network, Scribd, eCentral, Kobo, 20Books, Odile, and Apple Books. I was a little surprised, honestly, that Apple Books was at the bottom of this list, but the data says if you aren't publishing internationally and you aren't taking advantage of subscription services, Kobo has Kobo Plus, and like I said, several of these are subscription services as well. The data says you probably should start thinking about that. So, so genres, what does that look like? If you can see the bar here at the top, you're probably like, wow, I'm going to start publishing in whatever genre that is, because that bar goes to a 1,116% growth in 1 year. So we're all going to start writing comics and graphic novels. Let's start doing some graphic romances. Probably not. YA nonfiction, which is the market, I'm going to be honest with you, I hadn't even considered. But YA nonfiction, 638%. Action adventure, 202%. Fantasy, 179%. Sci-fi, 125. Mystery, 118. Art, 97. Family and relationships, so again, that's going to be a nonfiction category, 54%. Light novels, 45%. History, 44%. The always popular werewolves and shifters, 23%. Crime, 21%. Romance, 20. Thrillers, 15. And historicals at 9. So, so even if you aren't going to go sit down and write a graphic novel, there's still lots of room for growth in many of the genres that those of us in here are probably writing in. So which categories, genres and subcategories are we seeing trending now? So let's drill down on that graph a little bit more. So fantasy, the subcategories that are trending in popularity now: action and adventure, contemporary, epic, humorous, and romantic fantasy. Romance, paranormal. Mystery, historical, and anthologies, so people are really enjoying these collections. Erotica, which is probably going back to my graphic novel, romance, right? Science fiction, fantasy, and horror erotica, which is something that I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't know it existed. Science fiction, action, apocalyptic, and space opera, and then thrillers. People just love the basics, political and military. So I've got 2 key takeaways for you from the first half of this presentation. 1, book sales are still rising, so don't let someone tell you the book market is tanking. Somebody else's book market is tanking. Sorry, Simon & Schuster, but it's not ours. So despite the negative trends reporting about COVID or the Ukraine or the recession, US and international book sales, especially international, are on the rise according to the data that we are actively pulling out of our platform. And again, it's over 150,000 titles last year, or this year, sorry. And then you need to prioritize getting your books in more formats for more readers. Today's authors are growing their overall catalog and their earnings. Like, you know, when people put up their screenshots, like in 20Books, and go, I sold lots and lots of stuff, and it's like they had 90 titles, but it's really that they had 17 and they had them in 12 different ways, right? So you can grow your catalog by getting them in more formats. So audio, translations, print on demand. Those are becoming more and more key for growth, and they're becoming more and more accessible. In years past, right? How much have you been having to sink into audio to get an audio book out? You just have $2,500 laying around to go do that on a book, and you don't know if they're going to listen or not. But Google Play came in and cracked that door open, right? And so that will develop over time. So are you gonna be there, and are you gonna take advantage of those opportunities? And actually, speaking of that, we have some big plans for what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna talk about that in a second, in 2023, of how you can take advantage of that and level up. So what do I think, and Andres and Danica and all of us at PublishDrive, what do we think your 2023 action plan should be? One, probably already figured it out, go global. Make sure that you are publishing books in more markets with various business models, whether that's audio, whether that's translation, whether that's putting an English book in a foreign market, whether it's POD. There's a lot of ways to do it. And take advantage of emerging markets. We just talked about a whole lot of them by publishing translations. And this is where I get really excited. I sent around earlier the QR code to get on our mailing list and be entered for cake. But if you didn't fill that out, we are, in 2023, we are launching a beta test for AI-driven translations. We are working on the back end right now to make sure that it's accurate, because I know that's a concern of everyone's going, what word is it really going to put in there? But we are working on that. Our tech team is working on that in the back end. We feel very confident about it, and we are getting close to rolling it out for beta. When we can leverage the scalability of AI for translation, guys, that opens up the entire global market.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little late to the game on the AI audio recording. I've been following like art and stuff, but how does that work? It actually, is it good? Does it do a good job?
Yeah, I have used myself. I've used the Google when it was in beta, and put it up. So this is Kristen. I'm going to take off my PublishDrive hat and just be Kristen hat. My thought on AI audio right now is this. There are some really good voices. Google has a couple of them that are really good.
Yeah.
And you're probably already listening to Alexa at home. And Waze probably tells you how to get to the mall, right? So you're already listening to AI voices. And I have a lot of love and respect for narrators and the work that they do. For a lot of readers, however, they're listening on 1.2 and 1.5 while they're vacuuming, so they're not getting this full immersive experience anyway. Or in the case of my readers, my demographic skews a lot older. So my readers are 65 plus primarily in sweet romance, and they're looking for accessibility and not necessarily full dramatic. They just like a cost sensitive way for them to listen to books, because they just have trouble reading on screens or even on paper anymore. But so there are good voices. My personal opinion on AI audio is it's kind of like the Pareto principle, right? 80-20.
What was that?
The Pareto principle, that 80-20, like there's 80% good enough, 20% room to grow. So AI audio is probably not going to be the answer for every author or every book by every author. But if it's the answer for 80% of the books by 80% of the authors, that growth is going to explode. So you may take your top selling series and continue to put them with a narrator and give that full immersive experience. But I don't know if you've heard Elena Johnson talk. She likes to talk about her Donkey series and how she has books that sell all day long in their sleep, and then she's got these books that she wrote because she loved them and she can't figure out why they don't sell, and she calls them her donkeys. If you have a Donkey series, you may not want to spend $2,000 on an audio translation, but well, Google Play right now is free. Like, you can't beat the cost for that, right? Could you spend free to put that in audio? Yeah. So that's my thought. and that, again, that's just me personally, but I think if we start thinking about it as a business model and a business decision, it makes good business sense for a lot of reasons, but that doesn't mean that traditional narration is going away or should go away. It just means it's another option, right?
So with that though,
Yeah.
so a lot of a significant portion of my business is Audible books. Okay?
Yeah.
Why is somebody going to buy an AI narrated book that we put forward when they can literally have their phone read them? Is there, I mean, because so they're reducing the quality from the narration.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they not going to just reduce it down to completely free and let their phone read it to them?
Well, they might. My 73-year-old grandmas who are reading my book don't have a clue how to do that. So I think it's audience, it's convenience, it's whatever. I am assuming that we're not selling AI audiobooks for $21.99 like we're currently selling on Audible, right? My Google Play audiobooks are $1 higher than my ebooks. So it's cost effective. So I can buy 4 of those for the price of 1 or something like that. That doesn't really answer your question of why wouldn't I just do it on the phone, but I think it's probably a convenience factor.
And I mean, and I don't know, my Whisper Sync books are $7.99.
Mm-hmm.
They got it on KU and then they read it for got the audio for $7.99.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn, and I'm just trying to understand why they would make that step, or how do you make that appealing to the audience? Because I'm all for not spending $4,000 on.
Right. Yeah, and I I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll stand right up here and tell you, I don't have all the answers to it. That market barely exists. So like in my head, I'm like, well, yeah, but it's just for me, maybe I'm lazy. I just like to click the button and shop at my favorite store where I get books and audio books anyway, and not have to hassle with it, and that's worth $4.99 to me.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, let's come back next year and see what the market does and see what readers do. I mean, they may go, this sucks and I never want to listen to one of these. I don't know. I mean, I've heard mine. I don't think they're terrible, and they're great for listening on 1.2 while I'm walking around the neighborhood. So, but I mean, I think we could have a far more robust conversation maybe next year or 2 years from now, as that market continues to open and we see why readers make
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I wish I did.
Right. And I don't listen to audiobooks. I sell them. I don't listen to them, so it's hard for me to discern what the difference is.
Yeah, I am not an audio first. I'm still a book first reader. And to be honest with you, guys, don't like run me out of the room, but man, there's nothing like smelling a paperback. New book smell. Thing. They need to pump that into the casino in Valleys instead of cigarettes. We should talk to Craig about that for next year. But I think it's as with all emerging markets, and if you've been in this game long enough, you've seen things come and things go. And this may come or this may go. I hope it comes. I hope it stays, because I spent 12 years at Dell doing corporate communications there at Dell. I'm a big believer in kind of democratization of technology. And I think AI has the potential to democratize a lot of the things that we do today, to make it open to more authors to be able to, kind of the idea of the edge of publishing, which is really, everybody can produce an ebook really cheap.
Right.
And so I'd love to see more people be able to get into translations and to get into audio. And if this is how we do it, I'm excited about the next 3 years.
I absolutely want to hear everything you have to say about the translation AI. I mean, it's so, if I'm going to sell a book in another market, it's only going to make $6,000 or $7,000. It's expensive to pay, for a 150,000 word book to be translated, and there's no guarantee on that return.
And it's a bit of a, rolling the dice too, going back to the idea of front list big sellers and donkey books, right? Like, what is a front list in the U.S. may be a donkey in Germany. But what's a donkey in the U.S. may be the biggest hit in France, because just different reader preferences. So I wish I had more to tell you about AI translations, but come back and talk to me next year and I'll give a talk on it. But scan the QR code and get on the mailing list, because we'll be talking about it more, hopefully into the first quarter, earlier part of the year. Yes, if you have the got cake sign, pass that around. You have multiple cakes. Okay, that's awesome. So anyways, publishing more formats, including audio and print on demand. And you can scale up your print on demand by publishing globally and printing locally. So we have partnerships around the world with POD, like local. So it makes it easier. Like you can run it from here or wherever you live, maybe not a conference room in Las Vegas, but wherever you are, and it prints locally, and so it gets to those people for a better cost, like you're not shipping things through Book Depository or something like that, right? And then we had in there adapting more international standards like THEMA instead of BISACs, because THEMA is more of an international thing, so there might be something to look into, and I'm gonna be super honest with you, I don't know anything about THEMA. It was in this product. It was a bullet, I left it in, it sounded good, but I couldn't tell you the first thing about it, so we'll all go research together.
You might point out how long you've been on the job.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. So my challenge to you is to make 2023 the year you get more books in more places with more formats. I borrowed this from my my middle child went all around my house singing Anna from Frozen 2 and the next right thing. But do your next right thing. What is your next step? Sit there and think critically. Your resources, your readers. But how do you take this data and go, yeah, this is what I need to do next, and look at that critically. So real quick though, I want to talk to you about how we make this simple and tell you a little bit about what we do at PublishDrive and like how did we come up with all of this data and who are we? Like I said at the beginning of this, we exist to make publishing simple and effective. So simple is great because we all want a streamlined solution, because I don't know about you, but I'm a writer. I'm not an uploader. I'm a much better writer than I am an uploader, right? And but not only does the solution have to be simple, it has to be effective. You have to be able to get in front of readers. You have to be able to keep track of your costs. I'm sure everyone in here was in the high-powered author forum this morning, right? And that's 7 people sitting up there on that stage, and every one of them started with one book making $0. And today they're running seven-figure businesses. They are not, it's not necessarily that they're whale publishers, which they are, they're whale authors up there doing good things, but they are literally running 7-figure businesses. And when you run 7-figure businesses, 6-figure businesses, 5-figure businesses, 4-figure businesses, you need to control your costs. You need to know ROI. And so as an indie, we wear lots of hats. And PublishDrive is a platform that was started with that in mind. So Kinga, our CEO, actually founded PublishDrive 8 years ago when she realized that there wasn't a good way to get her, she wanted to publish her master's thesis, and there wasn't a good way to get into the markets that she wanted to get into. So Kinga lives in Budapest, Hungary, and distribution with the European market was very fragmented, and so she started to work on a solution to that, and it has evolved to where we are today, 8 years later. So I want to make things easy for you, but I also want to make them effective for you, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So it's kind of an overview of what we do, but I think this is the more important part of the slide. So we are where your readers are, or where your readers will be, because we're all going to go start looking at those international markets, right? We can get to more than 180 countries, 150,000 books last year. We've published books in 65 languages, and between the US and UK, we're doing 70% fiction and 30% nonfiction. Oh, but it's kind of cool on this one. If you look at the map, and I know it's hard to see, everything in blue is where we distribute. So Greenland is missing out, and a couple of countries in Africa, and that's pretty much it. So sorry, Greenland, we gotta get them on the map. So we give you the opportunity for more stories in more formats in more markets with more readers. These are some of our partners, so you can see there are the big ones that you know, right? Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Google Play. But there are also tons of more regional partners that we have, a lot in Europe, Think about, again, like I said earlier, Barnes & Noble's an American company, right? We all know it, but you can't walk into other countries and buy a Barnes & Noble. So there's a Barnes & Noble in Italy. There's a Barnes & Noble in Germany. There's a Barnes & Noble-ish, you know, in those countries. How do you get to those where those people in those countries know, I can help you with that? And we also publish in all 3 book formats, plus we can, especially if you're in romance and you're in maybe hotter contemporary romance, dream for serials, we can get you there too. We are the only book aggregator that can get you into China if you have an interest in the Chinese market. And like I said at the beginning of the presentation, we just signed a deal with India, which is with a large distributor in India. So as a big market, we can get you in there. What you got?
You said you're partners with like Amazon stuff, but aren't they like your competition in a sense?
Yes.
And so what do they use you guys for in the partnership? Like, what were you, like they?
I mean, aggregators are the same, Drafted Digital, us, Smashwords, which is now part of Drafted Digital, you know, those kind of things. Yeah, it's a competition relationship, but I mean, they just want to make money off of you, and they don't care how you get to the platform. They're still making their 30% off of you one way or the other.
So is that how it works? Like they'll use you to get into countries that they're not in?
Are you, no. Amazon doesn't.
What's that?
No, Amazon doesn't use me. I use Amazon.
Okay.
So you upload your book once.
Yeah.
And I get you to 125 places, whatever it is.
Okay.
And Amazon can be one of those stores, or you can opt out and load direct on Amazon, right?
Okay, that
you
makes
don't,
sense. Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yes.
Okay, so if you have a book and your main characters or whatever, there's some themes that might be illegal in certain countries, like say LGBTQ, and then you've got Middle East. Does your company navigate that to make sure that those don't get released in the places where they would like indict me for crimes?
Okay, yeah, I don't want you indicted. So Andres is our product manager. He probably has better insight into exactly how that process works, because yes, we do have to classify adult content and things like that. That used to be my phone ring, and I'm so sad that I can't have it on my phone.
So yeah, right now we don't really filter that. But obviously every book we distribute has to go through some kind of censorship. For example, when we distribute it to China, so it usually takes months instead of 3 days, and they just manually censor it if they feel like it's not fitting. But we don't really manually. You have to manually opt out a story if you feel like it won't go there.
But we do have a team, so when we were saying censor, it's not that we're rewriting your book or blacking out a part of your book. It's just it won't fit China's. This ain't gonna fly in China. We're not
gonna. If it's like a gay
gonna.
romance, I'm not gonna put that in guitar or something like that,
Yes,
right?
you're not.
No.
We are actually one of a handful of people who are listed as an Apple Trusted Partner. And so you can see here, we have, through our network of distribution partnerships, we can get you in more than 400 stores, 200,000 libraries, more than 100 countries, and that's, $1 billion-ish potential readers. No big deal. So, like I said, PublishDrive, we want to make it easy for you to be more successful, and we would love to be your partner in global publishing. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what makes us a little bit different from some of the other, there are other aggregators out there, and what makes us a little bit different. Ooh, 5 minutes, that's pressure. Okay. But a couple of things. So our platform, you can upload directly there, and like I said, you can do audio, you can do ebook, you can do POD through us. We have integrated marketing tools and partnerships, so we can help you get with store-specific deals, merchandising deals. We have someone specifically on our staff who does that. We also have partnerships with our friends at Written Word Media, with Barton Booksy and Free Booksy and all those. We can help you with those. If you choose to distribute to Amazon through our platform, you can actually run Amazon ads in our platform, which brings me to the next thing. You can see that like in our reporting console. So we have reporting tools for you to keep track of that money. We can actually help you if you have co-authors. We can help you split out royalties easily. And so what makes us a little bit different is most of the other aggregators that I'm aware of take a percentage of your book. So if you're easy to understand Amazon, right? You get 70%, they take 30%, they take a few more cents for their distribution fee, and then another aggregator is going to take 10% off the top of that. And so actually instead of 70-30, you're getting 60-40. And, but sorry, 80-20, 60, oh my gosh, no, there's even caffeine in here. 80-20, they're going to take another 10% off of that. And generally, that is done before you get your payment, your royalty sheets, so you may not even be aware that that's how they work. We are a flat fee service, so once you get, my number is kind of $250 to $300 a month, $250 to $300 a month if you're making that, or you're close to that, we can probably save you money because we are a flat fee service. So you always know exactly how much money you are spending every month on the distribution channel based on your plan that you're on. And that plan, of course, it scales, right, based on the number of titles and the number of formats that you have. But you're always aware of it up front. So it helps, I think, for planning expenses. And we've got a dashboard, we've got royalty share tools, and like I said, AI translation and audio. We are looking forward to that 2023. So that is it. I am Kristen at PublishDrive.com. Andres, our product manager, is Andres at PublishDrive.com. So if you have questions about product or anything else, we're also here for the rest of the conference. So that is it. We have 2 minutes and 56 seconds if y'all have any additional questions.
I have a question, but I think it's going to depend on how much you can answer about the translations, the AI translations. Are you allowed to give anything?
That's not even a question if I'm allowed to say anything. I know it exists and I know it's coming.
I'm just going to ask the questions and you can just say like, I don't know.
Okay, I'm good at that.
Is it going to be like, are you launching in just specific languages right off the top, or is it going to be like?
I'm going to assume it's specific languages.
Okay.
And you can probably guess who those suspects are just based on the popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Do I know that for sure?
Fair. And then is it going to be like Google AI audio where you can create the audiobook on Google but then take that file and upload it elsewhere? Or is this going to be a translation you can only use on PublishDrive?
That one I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to assume it's the former, but
Okay.
I honestly don't know. It may be the latter.
Thank you.
Anyway, he had been
Will you have translators who follow behind? So for my German translations, I'm 99% certain the translators are using an AI and then going back and just
let's be honest. Yeah.
So, and sometimes they're doing a good AI and sometimes they're not. So, is there going to be some kind of process on your end, or would that be on
There
ours?
is a process. I've been told a little bit about it. I mean, that's kind of, it's not released yet because we're still working through exactly how that works. Because I don't want you to put out something that sounds like I translated it into German with my 2 semesters of college German. That's not what you want. That's not what any of us want. So, okay.
My question's more on getting it into stores like Barnes & Noble. I know that going through Ingram and through KDP, when you put that wholesale discount on there, you make like 2 cents a book when it's selling for like 20 bucks. So is that kind of going to be the same thing for you guys also? So I mean, I know you guys don't fully control that. That's more of stores.
That's it. So we got partners, and Ingram is one of those partners, right? And so pricing is going to kind of roll into that. And it is going to be dependent on which partner you're using. And like I said, a lot of our POD partners are local to the countries that they're printing in and people are buying from. So, but in general, unfortunately, like, that's just the print model. It's kind of like, yeah, it's probably why if you're with a traditional publisher, your royalties absolutely suck for like paperbacks. I think I made like 25 cents.
I think this
royalties
year's
on a paperback.
the first time I've actually made any money on paperback,
Mhm.
and it's set for 25 bucks, and I make 5-10 a copy right now, and that's like the most.
And it's, and the longer the supply chain thing goes on, the harder that's gonna be, and unfortunately, I can't control that. So, yeah, it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but the honest answer is, the Ingram is one of our partners, so Ingram is Ingram.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So I know for the Google AI thing, you can go back and manually modify certain sections. Like I have an alien language in some of my books, so that wouldn't get translated, it would stay.
Yeah.
So I can make it so it like excludes that part, maybe?
Well, if it's an alien language, they probably won't.
It's not
translate
meant to
it.
be
Yeah.
translated, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine. That's an interesting question.
Can you try like a chapter or two and then like hear if it pops up your?
Yeah, I'm sure that there will be, you know, that,
There's going to be manual editing.
Okay.
Okay, good.
so, I think you're covered.
Okay.
I think the aliens are okay.
But I'm really curious about like, if you translate from English to German, how much of the alien language would you try to translate from English to German? Or
Right, because it would be wrong.
Like German alien.
Right.
Oh, no, that's a new genre, guys. You heard it here. You can take the German alien market.
It's also great to use if, you try to invent an alien language, but you accidentally curse in German. We don't detect that then.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that would be, okay, there's a whole lot of stuff here. So, you could go all day, but luckily, we have really smart people working on this, and the technology that they're using, I know of other publishers who are using some AI audio right now who are using this same technology, the backbone of it. So there are use cases where it's worked really well, and that's one of the reasons why we've adopted it. And so our team is now taking it and trying to make it as good as we possibly can make it to bring it out, and what works with our platform and how our users are going to be interacting with it, which is a little bit different than how, a medium press who has it in-house is going to be interacting with it. So more details to come on that. I wish I had really exciting details, but we're just not quite there yet. And I've been on the job for 2 weeks. So anyone else? Because I think we are at, it says end.
I have another one.
Okay, come here. You and I can just talk. If anyone else has any other questions, you can just. But please don't make me take these back to Dallas, guys. So come get a cup, fill them up with Craig's coffee in the morning. It'll be great. Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate y'all.